Today I'm going to walk you through the process of assembling your very own black and white puppy kit. This kit is designed based on my dog, Luke. So if you hear me say Luke in this video, that's why. Let's start by going over the supplies you're going to need to complete this project. First, you'll need an iron-safe mat. That's what I've got here. I have a wool mat that I will be working on today. You will also need an iron. Your iron should be set for cotton, but no steam. We won't be using any steam in today's project, so make sure that setting is turned off or just keep the water out of your iron. You will also need a non-stick pressing sheet. This sheet is really important. We will be putting part of the template underneath this sheet. You're going to need to see it when ironing on top of it. So the transparent quality of the Teflon or whatever non-stick surface you're using is critical. You're also going to need a pair of fabric scissors. Just some little snips are good enough. You will need a pair of tweezers, a pen, and last but not least, the kit itself. Your kit will come with a packet that looks just like this. It's going to have some pre-laser cut fabric inside the kit. And these pieces are held in, they're like 99% cut. They're held in place just with these little tabs. So you will be using the scissors to snip the tabs, freeing the cut piece from the rest of the fabric so that you can then iron it onto your project. Laser cut fabric. You are also going to get some paperwork. First is a full color template of the project. This template is really important because we will be using it to cross-reference the color so that you know what fabric each piece of fabric is going to come from. So let's set this aside for just a moment. We'll talk more about it in just a second. You're also going to need this number match sheet. The number match sheet has a printed guide for the arrangement of every piece of fabric cut out of the swatches that are in the kit. This is how you're going to know which piece is where and how to find it. And then last but not least, you're going to get one of these. This is the full-size printed template of your project. This is the sheet of paper that will go under your non-stick pressing sheet in order to iron your project together. So how does this work? You will be ironing your pieces in order of the number that piece is. What I mean is you're going to start with piece number 1, and then go to 2, and then 3, and then 4, etc. until you get all the way to 140, and then you'll be finished. 140 is the last final piece in this project. It's part of the background. But let's say you're getting ready to need piece number 38. 38 is here on Luke's nose. Well, we don't know what color that piece is because this template doesn't have any of that color information on it. We need to refer to the full color template to figure out which fabric we're going to be looking for. So we can see here that piece 38 is white. It's solid white. So if we slide this down, we can see these blocks at the top. These squares represent each fabric that is included in the pre-cut packet. So we can see the only white that's up here is white number 1. So white fabric 1 is what we're going to look for. It's going to be the only fabric that's in this packet. So here is our white fabric. Now, which piece is 38? Here's where the number match sheet comes into play. And for white 1, the white 1 fabric, we're looking at this rectangle in the top left corner. We want to make sure that we've oriented the cut fabric the same way it's oriented on the printed sheet, just so that it's easy for us to find the number. And then we can quickly find, okay, there's 38. It's kind of in the lower right corner. So that means this piece right here is 38. I can now use my snips to trim it away from the rest of this material and get ready to iron it onto my project. I mentioned the pen. As you go through this project, I personally find it helpful to scratch off the pieces that I've already used. That way I know that they're finished. I'm not going to be looking for them anymore. It makes it a little easier to find pieces in the future as a process of elimination, essentially. So that's the only reason you're going to need a pen for this project. Pencil works okay too. The last thing I'll mention about this fabric is that when you go to iron it down to your project, you do need to peel the paper backing off of the rear side to expose the fusible. I find that easier to do once it's been cut away from the rest of the swatch, but you can do it first if you want. The important thing is no paper when you go to iron it to your nonstick pressing sheet. And that's how this project's gonna work. So from here on out, for brevity's sake, to keep this video to a reasonable length, I'm not gonna show this cross-referencing process anymore. You get the idea. This would be what you do on your own. But from here on out, I'm just gonna show how these pieces get put together in order to make our Luke, our black and white puppy project. Starting with piece 1, it's Luke's iris on his right eye, which is the left eye as we're looking at this project. And I'm going to carefully line it up in place. Make sure none of those edges are sticking out. Nope, I definitely had it going correct the first way. We're going to be building this eye and then the other eye and then moving on. So we're going to get most of the little pieces out of the way first. So that's how that goes. Get that pressed in place. Okay. 2 is going to be his upper eyelid. Hold that in place. It's going to go on top of his iris. So we'll cover that up like that. Okay. 3 is this little piece over here. It's going to overlap the shadow, the black of his iris, and connect down to the highlight, which is piece 4. I'm going to iron this side first. Make sure we're lined up along the bottom, and then get the right side. There we go. Now 5 and 6 are going to be the whites of Luke's eyes on either side. So we're going to do them at the same time. Lift his eyelid out of the way. 5 is going to go here underneath everything. And I actually lined up this left side to the edge of his eyelid. That'll make it easier to line up once we put his eye back in place. And then on the right side, there is a tiny little corner that's not filled in. That's going to be covered by some gray. So the white of his eye does not go all the way down into the corner. It'll be a little hard to tell on the video because it's just not filled in right now. So you're seeing the white of the template. But trust me when I say that there is a little gap down here in the corner. And there we go. Now Luke's pupil is going to be piece number 7. And that's going to just get centered with a bias up towards the upper edge of his eyelid. So basically have it touch the upper edge of the eyelid right along here. So there's a little more brown along the bottom. And that's going to leave room for piece 8, which is the highlight along his iris. And that's going to go under his pupil down along here, just like that. It's that little catch light along his iris. We have 9 as a big highlight and 10 as a little curved highlight that goes underneath the circular one. And we're going to put those in just like that. There we go. Okay, one eye down. Time to move on to the other side. All right, now we're going to put the gray under his eye before moving on to the other side. So we'll lift his eye out of the way. This is piece number 11, and it's going to, the only line that you're going to see for piece 11 in order to line it up on the template is the fur that's on the left side, this tiny little area. So line up just these pieces of fur, slid on me, iron it into place, and then go ahead and put his eye back in place over it, just like that. Okay. So we should be able to see the gray down in the corner of Luke's eye. And the fur should just be sticking out a tiny little bit on the left side. So that's going to do it for that eye. Moving over to the right side, we've got 13, which is this big gray piece. This eye is in a little more shadow, so the white of his eye is a little bit gray. 14 is going to go on top, and it is going to match the upper curve right along here. So now we'll go ahead, iron that in place. That's 14. 15 is going to be the eyelid that goes around the entire eye. Should perfectly match the outline of the gray, just like that. 16 is Luke's pupil. And similarly to the other side, we're going to bias this up towards the top here so that we have a larger piece of brown sticking out below the pupil along the bottom edge than we do along the top. And now we have 17 as the curve or the round highlight and 18 as the curved highlight, and we want them to be positioned just about like that. So it looks like Luke is looking in the same direction. Get them ironed down. Very good. We're gonna leave his eyes there to cool off and move on to 19, which is down on Luke's nose. 19 is, there we go. I had to get the correct positioning. 19 is gonna go just like that. We'll iron it down. 20 is Luke's big nose. We'll put that in place, get it ironed down. Okay, now 21 is going to go under his nostrils. I'm just looking at, yeah, the placement's gonna go underneath the nose, but in this position, and I'm gonna line up this little line right down there. So you just peel this forward, or you can lift it all the way off if you want, it's up to you, and then fold it back in place and get all of that ironed just like that. I'm gonna have 22 on the left side of Luke's nose, and it is going to match the cut edge along the top. So let me get that finagled into place like that. There we go. Iron, very good. 23 is going to be the highlight in the middle of his nose. So we'll get that ironed down. And then 24 is going to be this little highlight right over here. It's like the curve of his nostril is catching a little bit of highlight, so that's what that is. All right, now 25 is gonna be this light blue, and it's gonna go along here, and very small portion is gonna tuck under the nose. So you're gonna need to lift up the left side of the nose and just tuck this tiny little bit in over here on the left side. And to be honest, that is the only part of this piece that you need to iron right here, because we're gonna be lifting the whole thing up in just a moment. So we just want to connect it to the nose and then leave it alone. Okay, and now very carefully, we want it and the nose to come off together. So I'm going to make sure I'm grabbing that very tiny connection point. We're just going to set them to the side. And now I'm going to get 26. And actually, I'm going to move both eyes. We're going to be building out his muzzle, and these are going to be in the way. So let's just set both eyes to the side. All right, now I have 26 here. And 26 is going to line up right along there. Okay, and get this pressed in place. There we go. Very good. Okay, now the nose and 25 can come back. We can clearly see where the nose is supposed to go. So let's start there. It does not quite touch this blue piece that we just put down, so there shouldn't be any overlap right there. I know it looks real close on the video, but there's not supposed to be any overlap. Let me get the nose put in place, and then I'll work on lining up the blue. Okay, this piece is going to share some cut edges over here on the left side. And then once those get lined up, the rest of it can get ironed down to the piece below it, and that will stabilize it. So we're just gonna go ahead and do that. My apologies, I just realized there is a slight change that I made after cutting the fabric for this prototype. So what you are going to have in your kit is a piece number 25 is also going to include this piece, which in my design was originally separate. So let me put it in place now, but know that piece 25, this light blue piece, will also include this on the kit that you are putting together. So it is going to line up and match all of these left edges. Do you see right along here? All of those are going to line up together. And then I can also see on the right side, there's where this little jagged piece sticks out. That lines up there. So we are lining up the left edges right here, and then this little jagged piece on the right. All right, let me get this ironed down. So as I said, all this light blue will be one piece on your kit. So that was 25. 26 is this darker blue piece that went underneath it. Now to 27. Now I admit I was not super careful when cutting these apart, and I accidentally ripped it. So your piece 27 is going to be in one piece ideally. Mine, however, is in two pieces because it only connects in a tiny little spot, and I ripped that accidentally by pulling too hard. So I'm going to get the lower part of 27 in place because that's actually the only part that goes under the nose. So at this point, there's not a whole lot of benefit to me ironing the top part because it doesn't connect to anything over here. So I'm just gonna iron the part where it goes under the nose. And because these are such delicate pieces, you don't need to iron anything that's not actively, attaching to something else. Okay, now we're gonna do 28, which is going to go underneath a whole lot of stuff. So we're gonna be ironing it under, but I just wanna position it so that you have an idea of where it's gonna go. Just like that. So it's gonna go under everything that we've put down, but that's the position. So let me lift this out of the way. Let's put that out of the way. And honestly, I'm just gonna lift up everything that we've done so far very carefully. I don't wanna rip anything else. And slide under the nose. Okay, we're all connected. Very carefully set that up here. Let's line up 28, and I'm starting with these little spiky bits of fur under his nose. Iron them down, and then I can move around and make sure the rest of it is lining up to its template lines. Okay, there we go. Very good. Now bring the nose back so I can see the top of his nose very clearly. So let's start there, get the middle in place. All right, there we go. Now let's just start working our way around, honestly, getting things lined up and overlapped and all that good stuff. So this side is in place. Iron it down. Let's work on this side. Get these ironed. I'm just ironing a tiny little bit at a time as I work around, making sure to match up edges that I know match up. And there we go. Just a little bit at a time. Excellent. Okay, now let me get the other half of my piece that I accidentally ripped apart. But one of the great things about working with Fusible is how forgiving it is. So it's okay, because it's just gonna glue together anyway. And no one will ever know by the time I get to the finished picture. So we'll get those lined up, we'll get this lined up, and then this swings down like that, and we're good. There we go. Excellent. Now for 29. We're just gonna go over here and line up. I'm lining up these top edges, and it kind of just sits in place over the other two. I'm gonna iron. Very good. Just iron all of that down, and we're good to go. All right, that was a tricky section. Now we've got 30 down here along the bottom, and we'll tuck him right in there. There we go. Now for 31, which once again is going to tuck under Lukey's muzzle. This little guy has some gray patches on either side of his nose. So what we're gonna do is lift up the upper portion of all this fur. Just peel it up. We also need to peel up his nose. I'll just do that. And then 31 is going to slide in right here. Let me tack the left side in place and then check on the right side. I'm gonna shift it around until I get it correct. There we go. Just tack it in place there. Now all this can fold back, and we can iron on top of that, just like so. Very good. That was 31. Now 32 is going to fill in those gaps, once again, underneath everything. So give that a moment to cool, and then we will lift it up. Here we go. Once again, carefully lift, 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 lift. 32 is not going to have any lines to match up, so just make sure that it covers all of those empty spaces in there, and that's good enough. Then iron very well. We're going through a number of layers at this point, so you want to make sure that the heat has time to penetrate all the way down through those 3 other layers. Moving upward, we're going to tuck 33 in right here. So lift up the top of Lukey's muzzle. Let's put in 33 right there. Let's iron that in place. Very good. Same thing a little bit to the right with 34. It's going to go right down here, and we'll iron. You don't need to iron the fuzz because we're going to be putting, going all the way up to 37 here. So we're going to be tucking in continuously. Next is 35. It's going to go under 34. There we go. Iron. Now we can iron the little white fuzz because it needs to stick to 35. This is 36. We'll put it in place under 35. Line up our edges here on the right. And iron, and now for 37, which goes under the top of 36, just like that, and iron. Very good. 38 through 45 are all going to come from the white one fabric, and for the most part they free float in the light blue fur. So we're just going to do them in order as we have been doing, starting with 38 right here, and I'm going to iron the right side and then come over. The left side actually matches up to the cut line of the I'll come over here and hold this in place, just like that. 38. We're gonna go counterclockwise or anti-clockwise or widdershins around. This is 39. That's 39. 40 is gonna be down here, giving Lukey his highlights, just like that. 41 is gonna tuck over here, just like that. And then 42 goes in this gap down here. There we go. 42. Now for little 43, which is going to be right here on the end, and that'll do that. Now it's back up to the top. For 44, it's going to tuck in right here and get this little piece that flips out to the right. Just get that in line like that. And now we're going to go clockwise for this half. This is 45. It's going to tuck in along here. There's 45. 46 is over here. Put that just there. Very good. This little guy is 47. He goes right here. Iron in place. Then we have 48 just below it. And it's gonna go, looks like we have some shared cut edges. I'm gonna line it up just like that. These white pieces are pretty forgiving though. And that's gonna do it for his highlights. Okay, now we got 40 or 49. And that's gonna be Lukey's little lower lip. So we'll lift this up carefully and then slide 49 underneath. He's got a little black lower lip. So put that in place. He's so cute. Okay, 50 is going to be this dark piece and it's going to go right over here, but again, underneath all of the other fluff. So we'll put this in place there. Very good. And iron. Okie dokie. And then 51 is the shadow of his mouth. So that again is going to slip underneath right along there. Let's get all of this up. There we go. Make sure we're not, with all this lifting, I just want to make sure I'm not shifting anything around too badly. Got to stay lined up. All right, we've got right along here. Very good. Get that all ironed in place. Excellent. 52 is going to be this big blue piece, and it, once again, is going to go under what we just put down here. We're building out Lukey's lower jaw, so it's going to go just under there. And we're going to be lifting it up too, so I'm not ironing the whole thing down. Not yet, anyway. All right, and now finally for 53, which is going to tuck under like this. So let's lift up what we just ironed, slide this underneath, and this long section that kind of sticks down, you'll see it on the template. It's pretty clear where that's supposed to go, and everything else should pretty much fall into place once you get that lined up. And then we have some shared cut edges along here. Make sure that this hole and this hole are both covered up by the blue. We want to fill in those gaps and then go ahead and iron. Now we've got 54 that's going to go right along the edge up here. There's 54. 55 goes over here, just like that. And 56 is going to go here. Very good. 57 is a little piece, and it's going to go down here on this little section that extends down. There's 57. Just now realized I completely forgot number 12. So I apologize that this video has jumped around a little bit, but you're seeing that there's actually quite a bit of forgiveness with my designs. I try to number them in order that makes the most sense, but they don't necessarily have to go together in that order, as you can see now, because we're going to put number 12 in place finally, and it's going to go under. So we need to peel up the whole upper section of Lukey's muzzle that we built and line it up around his eye. Fold this in place, just like that. Okay, and then iron the left side, iron the right side, and again, we're going through quite a few layers, so let's make sure we're ironing really well to make sure that heat penetrates down. Okay, now we can actually slide Luke's eye in place. So we'll get his eye here. Let's go ahead and lift this back up. Peel that carefully. Okay, I'm gonna eyeball those little pieces of fur there on the left side. I'm gonna get them lined up. So if we get all of those lined up correctly, when we fold this back down, that dark piece of gray, which was number 11, will go tuck down underneath all of this fur and fill the gap down there. Let's go ahead and iron all of that in place very well. Make sure that this corner is covered up. So all of your pieces there shouldn't be any gaps in here anymore. All that should be covered up. So back to our regularly scheduled numbering, we have 58, which is going to go under all of this. And there are two little pointy bits that are going to stick out over here on the left. So if I hold those in place and fold this back down, all this left side of the eye is now covered up. So that's the point of 58. Get all that ironed together. Good. We've got 59. It's going to be up here. We've got 60, which is going to be right down here. There we go. And we've got 61, which will have lines to match up over here on the left. So let's get that in place. Iron. So holding it with the tweezers to make sure it doesn't wiggle. And then we have 62, which is going to go on top of 61 and share the left cut edge. That's how we know where it goes. There we go. There we go. 62. Now 63 is going to tuck under the right side over here. I'm only going to iron the part that underlaps the blue because we're going to be putting 64 underneath it in just a moment. Here is 64. Now before we do 64, we're going to iron his eye right down here. There we go. And now we can lift all this up and slide 64 in place. Get all this lined up. There we go. Luke has a face now. He's so cute. Now 65 is going to go in here like this. It does share two little cut edges, one with this spike and the other with this spike. So we'll get that lined up and iron it in place. And then we have 66 that's going to go underneath just like this. And there we go. So that's going to be 66. Okay, at this point, Lukey gets lifted up and set to the side. We're going to work on his forehead for a little bit. So we've got 67. It's going to be over here. We're going to line up the lines of fur along the right side. Get that in place. 68 is going to be on this side. And I'm going to line up its pieces of fur along the left. And actually this little cutout, you can also line that up. It is going to attach to 67. 69 is this little guy. And it is going to line up along this cut edge right along here. So get that ironed in place. Very good. 70 is going to go just above it and share some cut edges with the darker blue. So get these lined up and carefully maneuver it in place and iron. That's 70. And here's 71. Carefully matching these cut edges and ironing in place. We're going to be tucking stuff underneath up there, so I'm not going to worry about it. Or at least I'm not going to worry about ironing it down right now. Just trying to get all of this ironed down. There we go. So at this point, we are going to be tucking more stuff underneath, but I want to put Lukey's face back in place because he will help hold all those pieces of fur where they're supposed to go according to the template if he's connected to them like this. So I'm going to get his face, and I'm going to iron his whole face because, again, we're going to be lifting up and I want him to remain in place. And then let's get him attached to the blue up here. There we go. Now we've got 72 just over here. I'm going to lift this up, and there's a little cutout of 72, so I want to make sure that's still visible. I'm going to line that up, fold back on top, and now I can iron. Okay, 73 is going to be this light blue piece, and it's going to tuck underneath. Carefully lift this fur up. Let's get 73 in here like that. Very good. Iron. Okay, 74 is going to go under a lot up here. So let's lift this. All right, I've shifted quite a bit. I'll make sure I'm still lined up. This is gonna go under here like that. Hold and fold. Okay, now make sure that your piece number 74, which we just put down and I haven't ironed yet, is not visible in this gap. This gap is gonna get filled with some black pieces. So just make sure that it's not peeking down in there before you iron it, otherwise you're golden. Next is 75, and the color is going to be hard to tell on your template, but it is actually black too. So you'll be looking for for 75 within black 2, and it is going to line up right along here. I was like, what's going on? It's going to line up right along here. So we'll lift all of this like that and get 75 under here. It will share some cut edges with the other fabric that you've already got up here. So be careful about that, and then go ahead and iron it in place. Very good. 76 is also from black 2, and it's finally going to start filling up the little hole that we've got up here. So I'm actually going to grab it and 77, which is from black 3 at the same time, because we're going to be doing both of them. So let's lift up. We're going to tuck 76 in place. Hold it. Okay, now I want to iron just enough to make sure that it's anchored to the blue. Okay, so I was just kind of pressing the edge of the iron right there. Now we can lift all this up again and put 77 there and fill the rest of the space. There we go. So we'll iron. I'm letting it iron for a good amount of time because it's going through a bunch of layers at this point, and we're good. All right, time to give this puppy some highlight. Let's start with 78. 78 is going to go along the left side, right in here, like that. 79 is going to fit in right up here, kind of wherever you want it to go there. 79. 80 is going to go right up here, like that. Now we have 81, which I'm going to, it's kind of wiggling around on me. So I'm going to start by lining up this left piece and ironing it, and then curving the rest into place where I want it to go. See, we're sharing some cut edges up along here. I wanted to make sure I did that correctly. Okay, so that's 81. 82 is going to be right along this back section. There we go, 82. 83 goes over here, shares some cut edges once again. And then we have 84. It's going to go right here. 84. Very good. I'm going to give all of this a good iron, make sure it's in place. Next up, we have 85. We're going to start building out Luke's ear. And you might be asking yourselves, what about this hole? Well, that's going to get filled up in just a moment by some of these pieces we're going to be putting down next. Okay, we're going to lift all this up carefully, and then let's fit 85 in place. And as usual, we're only going to iron, you see here's 85 starting to fill that hole. We're only going to iron the part that's overlapping, as we don't need to iron anymore. Okay, that's 85. 86 is Luke's ear. So we need to lift up a lot over here. Make space for Luke's ear. And you can see these little pieces that kind of kick out down on the left. So there's a lot of lines to follow with this one. Okay, looking good. Let's fold this back, and 85 is going to match this little piece that's sticking out there. Other than that, it doesn't share any cut edges with 86. So we'll just get all of that ironed nice and well. 87 is going to go over here and share some cut edges on the left. So we'll do that and line those up. There we go, 87. Very good. We've got 88. Working top down. Yeah, so there's a very slight curve right along the lower right, or the lower edge of 88. That's going to match this cut edge, and then this little tiny piece that sticks out is supposed to poke into this little piece of fur right there. So that's how you line that one up. 89 is going to be right along here, and then 90 goes like that. It doesn't quite overlap the blue. Now we have 91. And 91 is going to tuck along this left side right underneath, going all the way down to here. So there we go. Get that put in place for 91. 92 is going to go underneath, and this flat edge actually lines up with the bottom of the picture. So we're going to line that up and then line these little jagged pieces up. I'm not going to iron it to the rest of Luke though. I'm going to leave this part free because we're going to put something on top of it. So don't iron that yet. Same thing with 93. We're going to put this one over here. Let's just lift Luke up. You can peel his face up or lift him up and set him completely to the side, whatever your preference is, as long as he's not getting in your way. 93 is going to be a little tricky because its line is actually, it's going to line up all the way with 97, which is a little further to the left. So be mindful of that when you're putting it in place. and iron it all by itself for now. And now for 94, it is going to go on top of both of those pieces that we just ironed. And it's flat edge. Again, going to line up with the bottom. Oop, I've shifted a bit. There we go. And this little piece over here is going to line up with the darker blue underneath. Make sure that you're lined up going all the way up. And we're still not ironing to Luke's face. So again, if he's in the way, just lift him up and set him to the side because we're not dealing with him just yet. Okay, there we go. We've got 95, which, all right, he's starting to be a pain. Let's just move him to the side. Okay, 95 is going to go right along the edge here. And we'll get that lined up. That's 95. Coming down, we've got 96, which is going to share a lot of cut edges, all of them, in fact. Everything on the left. It lines up just like that. So that's going to be 96. 97 is that little piece I mentioned that's going to go right over here for 97. Continuing down, we've got 98. I had it upside down. Helps if I orient it correctly. So there we go. What did I say this was? 98. We just did 97. This is 98. Okay. It's clearly been a long day. There we go. 99 is going to go down here. I'll line that up right there, and then the rest of it kind of curves over like this. So we'll do 99, and then last but not least, we've got 100, which kind of just floats in here, although it does touch the bottom edge of the picture. All right, there's that. Now, before we put Luke in place, we got to do all of our highlights. So starting with 101, back to the top, 101 is going to go right there. 102, just below it, right here. 103, coming down the side, is going to be there. 104 is a little curved, so I'm going to kind of force it into position before I fully iron it down. And then moving on, we've got 105 and 106. These are going to be a little bit of a pain to cut out because they're so little and fiddly, but they're easy to line up and put in place. And then we have 107. We're working our way down. 107, here's 108. He's going to be the first one that doesn't line up with the edge. He's going to be inside a little bit. He's going to go like that. And 109 is going to go down here. We've got 110, which goes up in here. 111 is going to be right down here around 110. And finally, our last white piece is 112, which is going to go down here. There we go. Now I am going to put Luke back in place before we continue filling out this corner because I want him to help hold everything in place when we lift all this stuff up. So let's get him lined up like that. Iron, iron, iron. Again, going through a ton of layers at this point, so make sure you're leaving the heat on there for a good 5 seconds in each place at least. And I'm going to iron his forehead a little bit because I need him to stick in place when we lift up that bottom left corner. Next is going to be 113. Careful. These are still a little warm. It will be easier to lift if you let it completely cool down. So there we go. Now I am going to leave him folded up for just a moment. So once you get 113 lined up to the bottom edge, and then there's some lines on the left you'll be able to line up, fold Lukey back down. Let's get him ironed in place. There we go. Now we have 114, which is going to go under 113 like this. Line up with that bottom edge and this left side. There we go. You can iron all that down. Our last black one piece is going to be 115, and it's going to go over here on the left side. There we go. 116 is going to be this piece that goes under. Lift up that edge, line up to the corner, and then we can iron, and that'll do it for 116 and that lower side. On to 117, we're going to build out Luke's other ear. So we'll lift up that side of his head, put 117 underneath, and iron. Again, I'm not doing any of this stuff yet because we're going to be lifting it up. 118 is going to go underneath and we'll line up like that. It's going to go under a good bit of 117. There we go. Make sure 117 is still lined up correctly, and then we can iron those two together. So that's 118. 119 is going to go underneath both of them. And we can line up the right side, make sure we're at the edge of the design. We'll do that. Get all this ironed. Okay, he's looking very good. We've got 120 and it's gonna go right here, perfectly matching the cut edge of some of the black, of 117 actually, I think, perfectly matching those edges. So it'll be clear where to line it up. And then we've got 121, same deal over here. It has some perfect edges to match up to be in position. And then last but not least, 122 is gonna be over here on the right. No edges to line up for that one. Okay, 123 goes underneath, so we're gonna lift them up, slide this down. Let's do that. Okay, under there like that is good. Now we've got 124 under 123, so peel all that right back up. 124 is going under here. There we go. Iron. Very good. 125 is gonna go here. So we'll meet the tip and then let it come up into that blue spike a little bit. 126 will be next to it, just like this. And then 127 goes right here. Let's give a little bit of dimension on Luke's fur. 128 is gonna be this little piece. It slides under Luke's ear up here, not by a whole lot. So be very careful when you're ironing this. You don't need a whole lot of heat, just enough to kind of tack them together. And then when you lift from both sides so that you don't accidentally rip your fabric. So be real careful about that. That's gonna be 128. 129 is gonna be this piece that's gonna fill up most of the bottom left corner, or bottom right corner. Get all of that put back down. Okay, iron all of that in place. Now we have 130. Which is gonna go under here, and make sure we're covering up all those gaps down there in the middle. It's 130. Iron, very good. 131 is gonna go up here. Tuck him in, shift it on me a little bit. These tweezers come in handy to hold stuff in place. We've got 132, which is gonna share the cut edge right along this right side. 133 goes right here. 134 kind of goes in the center. 135 goes down here. 136 goes next to it, to the left. And then finally 137 goes over here. All right, Lukey's done. We just need to give him a background. 138 is gonna go right down here. You will be able to see its line where it goes under Luke, just there. Not a whole lot visible, and that's okay. So get it under like that. Let's go ahead and iron it in place. 139 is gonna be on the other side. So we'll lift it up, and you can match up the bottom right corner, slip it under the template like that. And of course you can match the line up there. So get all that ironed in place. And then we have our final piece, which is 140, and that's gonna go entirely under Luke's head. So let's peel him back. Matching up to the top corner here. I'm gonna tack it in place so that it doesn't move on me. Okay, and now we can put Luke in place on top of that background. It's not a problem. And now iron everything very, very well, because that heat is going through a lot of layers and we wanna make sure Luke is very well adhered to his background. So I'm gonna spend some time just ironing, and then he's gonna be totally done. And there he is. That's our black and white puppy, also known as Luke kit. Thank you so much for following along. I hope you enjoyed this project, and have a great day.